free. Just
Hello everyone and welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. We come back to another comment from Matthew here saying that his wide receiver room is Nico Collins and Mike Evans, putting Mike Evans in the flex in a PPR league. I think that's a good decision. I like this wide receiver room a lot. It is very heavily reliant on how their quarterbacks play, as both Stroud and Baker have shown a little bit of struggle in the past couple of weeks, but overall, it's still a nice wide receiver room. They are going to get the lion's share of targets in their respective offenses. So overall, I think your wide receiver room is set, and it just makes this trade look even better because Ayuk is a valuable asset as well, whether on the flex or on your bench, especially in a PPR league as well. So I really like that. But for our third segment of today's show, we are going to be looking at some bold fantasy predictions I made before Week 3 games. Could come back to bite me in the future, but these are just some of the bold predictions that kind of stand out in my mind when I think about the Week 4 games upcoming. Without further ado, let's jump right into our first one. And the first one I have of the day is Geno Smith and Jared Goff giving us an instant fantasy classic Monday night. That is, both of them, we're looking at top 10 to top 5 fantasy performances out of these guys. And this is a pretty bold kind of take here from me. But I think both of these guys are capable of doing it. And the reason why I picked it is because this matchup is always fun. This is kind of becoming one of those low-key NFC rivalries. Not like a huge one, but over the past couple of years, these teams have played each other, and they have been instant classics. Both of these quarterbacks performing well in these games. But both of them also have injury concerns to worry about as well. So it could call for a lot of short to intermediate passes, getting the ball out quickly, which is what both of these quarterbacks, I think, do the best, almost better than anyone else in the league in terms of how their offenses are set up for them. Let's look at the Seahawks side of things. They have lost a lot of talent on the offense. They're down Kenneth Walker. They're down a lot of linemen. They're down to their third string, I believe, right tackle, Stone Forsythe right now. So I truly expect that Geno Smith is going to have to continue to get the ball out quickly. He's been doing it very well over the past couple of weeks. And to great effect as well. He's been getting all his different weapons involved. Jackson Smith and Jigba are really showing out. DK Metcalf, a couple of long touchdown catches over the past couple of weeks. So look for Geno to try and keep this offense up in a good tempo. I like that he's trying to include Charbonnet. Charbonnet himself is maturing in this offense. And as long as he's going to be called upon to be the running back one in the system, he's going to have to live up to expectations. So look for him to continue to contribute as well. On the Lions side of things, Jared Goff hasn't really looked good this year. But I think this is one of those games where he's going to test a Seattle defense that, while has looked like one of the best in the NFL, really hasn't played anyone. They played rookie Bo Nix, Skylar Thompson, the backup in Miami, and I'm blanking out who else they played. They played Jacoby Brissett. So that's not the best 3-game slate. It's an easy kind of 3-game slate for Seattle. So this is the first real test. But he also has some offense concerns where Laporta might be out in this game. Amon-Ra has had an up and down start to the year. Jameson Williams as well. When he distributes the ball to him, he's a very dynamic player, but it's all about, Goff. If Goff is not looking like himself, then this Lions offense won't look like itself. And they really have started to rely more upon that duo in the backfield in Montgomery and Gibbs. As Andre says, what's up with K9? He's made of glass. Man. A lot of people, myself included, think that, if K9 comes back for the Seattle squad, he immediately makes it better. We saw what he did in that first game where he completely, as Charbonnet though said, as he says, Charbonnet got me 25 points though. Haha. So we'll see. I do like the fact that Charbonnet is one of those weird backs as T-Money enters the chat. Been a long time since we've said that name in this chat room. Welcome back, T-Money. Should I trade Connor and J-Mo for JT? I'm blanking on who that is right now, but James Conner and J-Mo for... I really don't know who JT is. JT. I'm blanking right now, but James Conner, let's see who you're trading away first before I try to figure out who JT is. Connor and J-Mo, they're two players who I really like to start the year, but James Conner is one of those guys when the Arizona offense is going to be up and down because the Arizona offense is still trying to figure out some kinks, fix, and adjust. As Jonathan Taylor is the name. I was wondering why I wasn't getting around to it. And JMO says, and JMO is one of those players that we talked about. Also kind of a Jekyll and Hyde performer. So Jonathan Taylor, first really good performance from him of the year against the Bears. And also in that system, I feel like he's going to have to help Anthony Richardson. So that is an interesting trade. I would accept it, even though, we'll see, especially in this game against Seattle, if Jameson Williams is, worth, anything in fantasy right now at this point, and James Conner as well, as his season with the Cardinals goes along. But I really like that trade because Jonathan Taylor actually adds a lot of value. As T-Money also updates us on his team, Burrow, Josh Jacobs, James Conner, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Dalton Kincaid, DK Metcalf, Jameson Williams, Jerome Ford, Xavier Worthy, Darnell Mooney, Christian Watson, and Jonathan Brooks. I traded away Mahomes, London Ridley for Burrow and Chase. So I think that adding another running back to this room is very good because I don't like Jerome Ford kind of as your bench guy. And if you trade away Connors, it just fits in nicely as well. So I would accept this trade. As Terrell T also enters the chat. Should I start Deontay over Higgins? That's an interesting one as well because Deontay Johnson really showed that he could be a wide receiver one, even if Andy Dalton is starting. And T. Higgins really hasn't impressed me. Had an interesting game, but really didn't show me much in that game. So I think that it could be a value. No, I think that Andy Dalton really has rejuvenated this offense, and Deontay Johnson is kind of the best weapon they have out of all their skill position players, when it's all said and done. So I really like that. As Andre says, oh man, I think Mahomes is better than the line. That's an interesting opinion. Burrow is kind of one of those guys who right now is at a tough spot, but he did have some bright spots. Had a big game last night against Washington, even in that loss. So who knows? I project that him and Chase will be an interesting QB wide receiver duo to look out for. And they have some easy wins coming up, or easy games coming up. But overall, I think that both of these interesting trades concerning Bengals players and different skill positions are very intriguing. Thank you for all your comments, guys. But back to this interesting game. I just think that this game can be an instant classic right away. It's going to be a very litmus test-like game for both of these teams to see where they really stand in terms of the hierarchy of the NFC. But another one that's kind of more of a betting prediction than an overall fantasy prediction, as Team Money says, yeah, I like Mahomes too, trust. I took him in the fourth, but I wanted Chase. Again, it's QB over wide receiver, right? As he also says, because Chase and CeeDee could carry me. Yeah, I think that right now, wide receiver could be more potentially more kind of pivotal position in terms of how it stands in the hierarchy of fantasy football positions right now. As QB, any given week, anyone could be the top QB, especially through the first couple weeks of the season. I've talked about a lot of different guys at the QB position really having fascinating performances. As Andre also says, Chase way better than London, though, and you got the stack. You're chilling. I really like this team that Team Money put out, so I agree with Andre as well, and I agree that Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, although CeeDee has kind of had a sketchy start to the season, I really like. But I do want to get to this prediction because it's more of a betting one if you're looking to bet on this game in terms of how I think this game will play out. Broncos Jets hits the under, and the reason why I think this is, even though we saw a nice little game for the Jets offense, I really was impressed by the Broncos as well. As Team Money says, yeah, and I love Mahomes, I agree, he's good. But for fantasy, he has been mid. I kind of agree right now to start off the year. He himself is admitting that they have been good, as Team Money says, and they look lost. Not going to lie, the Chiefs are my fave team. I think that, I don't necessarily know if they look lost, but I do agree that right now they're not playing the best football they can. And we know they can't. But as of right now, though, kind of agree with your statement. It's just a very weird QB market right now. You could really stick anyone out there and expect them to have a big game. The wide receiver is very important. Trying to find the number one is always very important. So I appreciate all your discussion, Team Money. As Andre said, Brees going for 100 yards. Well, he can go for 100 yards. I just don't think that this game will be very high scoring. I think that, as he also says, Braylon Allen 50 plus. I think that this is going to be a game dictated by the ground game for both of these teams, because when I look at it, the Broncos' perhaps best unit is their run defense. I know it's kind of weird to say, but they did a good job for the most part against the Bucs. And for what it's worth, I think that they're going to want to key in on that aspect and try and, pressure Aaron Rodgers to hurt them a little more vertically, because even though he didn't have an impressive game, he's not, the best vertical thrower. But on the Jets side of things as well, I'm still very worried about Garrett Wilson. It's going to be an interesting matchup that I'll talk about in future episodes with him and Pat Surtain. But this whole offensive relationship, trying to work its way up to where it can actually be a true Super Bowl contender, is something to monitor. And the Broncos right now should have a lot of confidence. But that being said, I think that Bo Nix, for as good a game as he had against Tampa, still isn't going to give you much upside in terms of throwing for touchdowns. I think that it was nice to have a common game like this, but overall, the Jets defense is coming off a nice game for themselves, so look for this to hit the under. Just going through this last one pretty quickly. This one kind of lost a little bit of its luster after the Rams had a shocking win, but the Bears defense could take advantage of a depleted Rams team. I still think that this will stand up the test of time, because the Bears, no matter what their offense does, still have one of the more underrated defenses in the league, and it's always going to keep them in games. I think that Matthew Stafford still in this game will try and decipher who he wants to be his top receiver, who he relies upon as his top receiver, and it could contribute to a feisty Bears secondary led by Jalen Johnson, Reek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon in terms of helping them, create turnovers as well. And this Bears defense, for nothing, can really shock a lot of people. So I just wanted to update you quickly on that front as well. And then the last one that I want to go through quickly before we head to the break. This one kind of feels like it could hit, especially. And this one could potentially be a big one as well. Pretty bold last prediction there, but the Falcons upsetting the Saints is the one that I think will ultimately hit. Kirk Cousins being the QB1, well, he's still out there on waivers in my personal league, but he is someone who has proven that he's coming back from this Achilles injury much better than we initially expected, and he's leading this young Falcons offense, and ultimately I think the sky's the limit for them. I still think in the NFC South you might want to take the Saints as the ultimate divisional winner, but the Falcons just have a lot of upside right now. They really almost deserve to beat the Chiefs. They had moments in the red zone where they just couldn't punch it in, but this is a team that's really looking on the up and up again, and I really like the profile of what I see out of them, especially Kirk. And it's kind of bold to put him in the QB1. Maybe I would lower this to around like QB7, 8. But I still think this is an interesting proposition of a game right here. It's going to be a gritty NFC South game that I really am looking forward to. But let me know what you guys think in the comments about my predictions. You can be as skeptical as you wish. You can be as interested as you wish. But that will just about do it for this segment. Coming up for our fourth segment of the day, I begin my rankings for this upcoming weekend based off all the favorable matchups. Which QBs and running backs do I believe will have standout games this weekend? I'll be right back to talk about the QBs first, right after this short break.